Donald Trump is a punk ass, and nothing makes that clearer than his incessant whining about how he feels that he's dealt with injustice on social media. The latest example was explained far better by Aaron Burnett than I could, because to be quite honest with you, I do not care about this story. So let's hear what Aaron Burnett had to say.
Twitter now prompting users to get the facts about mail-in ballots because what the president had tweeted wasn't true. Clicking on that link takes users to a page which includes a section, what you need to know. And the move follows Trump's false claims today that mail-in ballots cast in California will be, quote, substantially fraudulent and result in a, quote, rigged election.
So this is what Donald Trump did in 2016. He was starting to plant seeds in people's heads about a so-called rigged election because he was expecting to lose. And he's now doing the same thing as he's struggling in polls. He's trailing Joe Biden in many of these battleground states. And he knows that if he makes it difficult for voters to cast their ballots, especially as we're dealing with this pandemic, well, maybe it'll give him an edge over Biden. And so he's putting out all of this nonsense about voter fraud related to mail-in ballots. It's absolute nonsense. And for the first time ever, Twitter added a fact check link that people can click on to actually learn the truth about what's happening with these efforts to increase vote by mail. So Trump didn't like that. He responded by threatening Twitter. He didn't elaborate on how he would, but apparently there's an update to this story that John will share with us in just a minute. But he had tweeted, Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silent conservative voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. So that sounds like a big government move by the wannabe dictator in chief. Well, so he's apparently also signing an executive order related to this, right, John?
Yes, and those are all the details that are available that we know and that he knows, because he has no idea what it's going to say, because it doesn't matter. In the end, he's not trying to shut down Twitter or to significantly change Twitter. What he's trying to do is scare Twitter so that Jack will eventually, Parker Malloy was saying something about this. So he'll have them over for dinner again or whatever, have the big conference room full of conservative a-holes that'll come in and say, you're biased against us. And then Twitter will be like, okay, I guess to stop getting attacked, we'll just side with them and we'll help them. And if the algorithm has to be shifted in some way to benefit them, maybe that'll stop them from complaining. Spoiler alert, it won't, because no matter what you do, no matter what you give them, they will continue to say that you are biased against them, because what they are expressing is not an accurate reflection of their belief that they're being biased against. It is a desire to move the goalposts. That's all it is. And they're going to continue to do that. And Trump is trying to help them do that. We should briefly acknowledge that in there where he says that it's sort of ironic. He says conservatives believe that Twitter's trying to silence them, when all they did was literally add extra information. They didn't silence them at all. At the end of the thing, he says, I'm going to shut down your whole company, and presumably silence literally everyone on the platform. It's a bit ironic there.
Sounds like it goes against those free market values that Republicans claim to have. It's really weird. No, but what I find fascinating about this story is that for anyone who's actually paying attention and analyzing this story objectively and not putting their own personal political views or applying their own personal political views to it, think about how ridiculous it is that these men position themselves as alpha males. Yep. But they're all incredibly pathetic and weak. Like, Trump is just so, like, he's so sad. Like, he's constantly crying. Like, there hasn't been a single day in his presidency where he isn't moaning about something, like whining and crying about something. And then just when you think, like, wow, Donald Trump might hold the spot for, like, biggest bitch in the country, then you have Jack Dorsey, who, like, has folded to Trump's demands over and over and over again. So even with this story, they add a fact-checking link, right? And Trump fires back and he's angry. And you know what Twitter did? They issued a correction to their correction, because conservatives were arguing that Twitter was conflating absentee ballots with mail-in voting. Even though, honestly, there isn't that much of a difference. The voting is still done by mail. Yeah. And there is not widespread fraud with absentee ballots. Like, it's just dumb. So now Twitter's playing like this both sides thing. And then it just totally, the whole issue is up for interpretation again, depending on where people fall politically. It's so stupid.
It is incredibly stupid. And like I tweeted during the break, we just passed 100,000 deaths to COVID. Greatest domestic crisis of our life by an order of magnitude or more. I hope for the rest of my life that nothing exceeds this. And the way Trump marked it as is, I'm gonna do an executive order, something about DMs. I don't know. That's what he thinks. And you're 100% right. I mean, I get that nobody cares about this, but I have been trying to drive home for some time that the conservative conception of masculinity is absurd on its face, has absolutely nothing to do with actual masculinity. I mean, Donald Trump, like all of these qualities, by the way, are perfectly fine to have if you want them, and you shouldn't be judged for it. But if you actually believe that a real man shouldn't be vain or emotional or overly concerned with what other people think about them and all of that, that is all Donald Trump is. He is a guy who is constantly thirsty for validation from literally everyone, constantly whining and getting triggered about the slightest thing, unable to defend his positions, his beliefs, his values, any of it. There isn't an ounce of strength in his entire body. He's duplicitous. He cheats on his wife. He can't run a business. He doesn't pay his debts. Any standard that men have held up as a sign of traditional masculinity, he doesn't pass a single one of those tests. And the conservative men don't care because that's all been a smokescreen. Conservative masculinity is about upholding a society that benefits white men and keeps everyone else down. That's fundamentally it. There's some other stuff that occasionally shows up as like window dressing, but they don't actually require it, clearly, because they love Donald Trump like they've loved no man in history.
Yeah, and look, Tiffany Trump wants to know, where's my father, right? Hasn't been a great father. Hasn't taken personal responsibility. He's sad. He's just a sad little boy who's wearing a suit that's too big for him. And he's trying to be a grown up. He's trying to be a big boy, but he's not. Yeah. He's not. He can never be, because no one has ever forced him to be a mature human being in his life. And so he's always had this child's mentality, and he tries to like pass himself off as an alpha male, but all he's really done is shown not only that he's weak, but all of these other Republican lawmakers who for decades have tried to present themselves as alpha males are even weaker.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
They're afraid of him. And it's just incredible to see this like unprecedented weakness in the office of the president. This is a position that's so incredibly powerful. And all he does is whine about how he's been wronged or he's dealing with injustice. No, you're not. You're a little child. Yeah. Sad.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.